Hi, I'm Vivi. Lately, there's just been so much news about layoffs. At the end of March this year, Oracle began a massive round of layoffs. Many employees woke up to terminate emails early in the morning. Amazon, Meta, Google, it almost feels like the tech companies around the world are racing to see who can cut jobs faster. And in China, it's the same story. NetEase, ByteDance, all the big names. Layoff news just kept coming over and over again. It really feels like nobody is safe anymore. So today I want to talk about something a lot of people care about but don't fully understand. If you get laid off, how much money do you actually get? I looked into official sources from all three countries, and I'm also drawing from my own experience in HR and headhunting. Because what the law says you should get and what you actually get are often very different. Let's start with the law. Under China's labor contract law, if a company lays you off and it's not because you did anything wrong, the company is supposed to pay severance. The basic formula is simple. For every full year you worked there, you get 1 month's salary. That's what people call N. If the company didn't give you 30 days notice before letting you go, they have to add 1 more month. That's N plus 1. And if the company fired you illegally, means you didn't actually do anything wrong, they just want to get rid of you. The payout doubles. That's called 2N. Now the calculation is supposed to be based on your average monthly income over the last 12 months before you left. That includes performance bonuses, and in most cities, annual bonuses are included too. Here's a real example. Some tech companies in China pay 16 months of salary per year. That means 12 months of base salary plus 4 months bonus. But when calculating severance, some companies only use the base salary and completely ignore bonuses. For employees who work there for many years, that difference can add up to thousands of dollars. You can check the chart on the screen for a simple breakdown. There's another situation that surprises a lot of foreigners. In China, even when a fixed-term contract simply expires, if the company decides not to renew it, the company may still be required to pay severance. In most cases, the formula is still N, 1 month's salary for every year worked. So it's not just about being fired. Even a contract that quietly runs out can still with a payout as long as the company chooses not to renew. Taxes are another interesting part because a lot of people don't actually know this. In China, severance pay is often tax-free up to a certain limit. In many cities, there's a tax-free threshold. If your severance payout stays below 3 times of the local average annual salary, you may pay little tax or even none at all. Let's use Beijing as an example. In 2025, Beijing's average annual salary was around 143,000 RMB. 3 times that would be about 430,000 RMB, roughly $63,000. If your severance payout in Beijing stays below that amount, you may pay no tax at all. I saw a real case shared online. Someone worked at an internet company for about 7.5 years. The monthly salary was 58,000 RMB. He was laid off illegally, so he received 2N compensation, with more than $128,000. At first, he thought that the taxes would be extremely high, but after everything was calculated, the final tax rate was actually less than 10%. And here's the interesting part. In China, severance pay is usually taxed as a separate one-time payment. So once that tax is calculated and deducted, that's basically it. It's not treated the same way as normal monthly salary income for the rest of the year. So for some people, getting large severance payout and then quickly finding another job can actually put them in a pretty good financial situation. But that's the legal side. The reality is often very different. Based on my own experience in HR and headhunting, and what I've seen from friends and people around me, many companies don't fully follow the rules. In China, people who actually receive full severance are the minority. And usually, the companies more willing to follow labor laws tend to be large companies with strong profit, especially major tech companies and international companies in large cities. Here's a real example. Oracle China has long had a reputation for relatively generous severance packages. In 2022 and again this year, whether it was employees in Beijing, Dalian, or Suzhou, many people online said that they received around N plus 6. In other words, the standard legal severance package plus another 6 months of salary on top. Compared to what many Oracle employees in the US experienced during the same layoffs. Some people in China almost felt lucky, even though salaries in China are usually much lower than in the US. So when the economy is strong and the jobs are easy to find, people actually hope to get laid off because the payout can be huge. Today, many companies try everything they can to avoid paying or to pay as little as possible. Common tactics include calculating severance using only base salary, while ignoring bonuses and performance pay. Transferring employees to department they don't want to join or cutting their salary, hoping they will quit voluntarily. And then there's something called a fake layoff. In some cases, the company asks HR or someone working with them to pretend to be headhunter. They approach the employee with an attractive job offer. The employee thinks they found a better opportunity, so they resign voluntarily. But when they try to join the new company, they find out that the new company was never real. And because the employee resigned on their own, the original company doesn't have to pay any severance. No job, no severance, nothing. I even saw lawyers online analyzing cases like this. Under Chinese labor law, situations like this can potentially be considered a fraudulent termination. And in theory, employees may have the right to demand 2N compensation. But whether they can actually get the money is another story. And then there are even worse situations. Some companies can't even pay salaries anymore, let alone severance. Employees go through labor arbitration and even win the case. By then, the owner may have already moved money away or the company has already gone bankrupt. So even with a court ruling, there may still be nothing left to collect. Now I want to talk about something that rarely gets mentioned but really matters. In China, a lot of people go through labor arbitration not because they're trying to get rich from a lawsuit. They're simply trying to get the N plus 1 or 2N compensation they were already legally owned. And even for that, they may still have to spend months fighting for it. But here's the part that makes it even harder. Many people worry that a labor dispute could affect future job opportunities. I saw a real post on Xiaohongshu. Someone said they had sued a former employer. Later, during background checks, multiple companies brought it up during the hiring process. Offers fell through again and again. And honestly, this fear is one reason why so many people stay quiet, even when they believe the company clearly broke the law, because they're afraid it could hurt their chances of finding the next job. Now let's talk about the US. A lot of people assume that because of the US is such a developed country, there must be a strong legal system protecting workers after layoffs. But actually, US federal law does not require companies to pay any severance at all, not a single dollar. The US operates under something called at-will employment. That means a company can fire you at almost any time for almost any reason without giving a reason, and without paying severance. The US is the only major developed country in the world that uses this system. So why do we constantly hear about American companies offering huge severance packages? Because it's voluntary. It's a company policy, not a legal requirement. And that means the gap between companies can be enormous. Oracle became a major example of earlier this year. Its severance packages was widely criticized for being uh, below industry standards. The formula was 4 weeks of base salary plus 1 week for each year of service, capped at 26 weeks. So if you worked there for 10 years, you'd get 14 weeks of pay, not even 3.5 months. Meta and Google both offered a base of 16 weeks plus 2 additional weeks for every year worked with no cap. Microsoft also provided strong severance packages during recent layoffs. But in the US, severance policies can vary dramatically from companies to company. Some employees receive months of pay, others get very little. Severance pay in the US is also heavily taxed. The RIS treats severance as supplemental income, so companies often withhold the taxes at fairly high rate upfront. At the federal level alone, the standard withholding rate is 22%. Once you add state taxes, Medicare, and other deductions, some people feel like a huge chunk disappears immediately. But that's not always the final amount you actually own. In the US, taxes are calculated based on your total income for the entire year. So if your income drops significantly after the layoff, or if you're married, have children, or qualified for other deductions, you may get some of that money back when you file the taxes the following year. So in practice, some people initially feels like nearly 40% disappeared, but the actually final tax rate can end up much lower. There's one more thing about the US system worth mentioning. Companies can lay people off for business reasons, but they cannot legally target someone because of age, gender, race, illness, pregnancy, workplace injury, or because that person previously complained about the company. So a lot of US employment lawsuits aren't really about severance. They're about discrimination or retaliation. For example, someone gets laid off right after filing an HR complaint, or a 55-year-old employee gets cut while younger employees in the same role are kept. During recent Oracle layoffs, Reddit users also talk about employees who had worked there for more than 20 years, including someone reportedly going through cancer treatment, who were still laid off. That alone doesn't make the layoff illegal. But if an employee can prove they were targeted because of illness, medical leave, or another protect status, the case can become much more serious. And if a court finds the company crossed that line, the damage can be far bigger than normal severance pay. This part is very different from China. In China, a lot of discrimination isn't even hiding, it's openly written into the job posting. Age limits, gender requirements, height and appearance standards, marital status, whether you plan to have children, and sometimes even where you come from. Most Chinese workers don't sue over discrimination. The focus is almost always, did the company pay what the law requires? Germany is very different. Like the US, Germany technically does not have a nationwide law that guarantees severance pay. But the philosophy behind the system is almost the opposite. In Germany, worker protection is not mainly about how much money you get after being fired. It's about making it difficult to fire people in the first place. To terminate an employee in Germany, companies usually need a legal valid reason. They also need to provide a proper notice. In companies with a works council, layoffs often involve employee representatives, especially during larger rounds of layoffs. The threshold is much higher than in the US. Companies generally don't make these decisions carefully. So when layoffs do happen, companies often come to the table with severance offers because they want to avoid the long labor court process. A common unofficial formula in Germany is around half a month of salary for every year worked. Let me give you a real example. SAP, Germany's largest software company, announced a restructuring program in 2024 affecting around 8,000 positions because union and employee representatives were involved. The process was relatively transparent. Most of the departures were handled through voluntary programs rather than sudden layoffs. German reports described the package as pretty generous, especially for long-term employees. And here's a smaller personal story I found on Medium. A foreign employee working in Germany got laid off and hired a labor lawyer for a little over 500 euros. The lawyer not only negotiated an extra month of severance, they also changed the wording in the termination agreement from mutual agreement to operational reasons. That one wording change also protected the employee from problems later with the employment agency. According to the employee, the lawyer's fee was completely worth it. But even after you've negotiated a good package, taxes can still take a significant cut. Severance pay in Germany is also taxable. In most cases, it's treated as regular income. Germany has a progressive tax system with top rate can reach up to 45%. So a large severance payment, especially for higher earners, can result in a really big tax bill. Even when a package looks generous on paper, the actual amount people take home may notably lower after taxes. And if the negotiation breaks down completely, there's always another option. In Germany, suing your employer is very normal. Labor court cases are common, socially accepted, and often treated as just a part of the process. And in many cases, once an employee files a lawsuit, companies may actually offer more money to settle privately and avoid a public court case. That's very different from what many workers experience in China. Okay, let's wrap up. So 3 countries, 3 completely different systems. China has the clearest rules on paper, but the enforcement is the real problem. In the US, there is no legal requirement at all. How much you get depends entirely on the company. And most lawsuits aren't about severance, they're about discrimination. Germany has the strongest protections, but the taxes are high and companies have much less flexibility. Every system comes with trade-offs. Most of the examples in this video come from large, well-known companies. NetEase, ByteDance, Oracle, Amazon, Meta, Google, and SAP. These are companies with public information and a relatively visible process. But in real life, it's often very different depending on the country, the company, and the industry. And honestly, I've been through this myself too. Years ago, I was laid off. I walked away with nothing, no severance at all. Part of it was because I didn't know my rights. But honestly, I was also afraid that fighting back might cost my next job. So yeah, that's for severance pay and layoffs. In the next video, I may talk about unemployment benefits and how those systems actually work in China, the US, Germany, and maybe a few other countries too. I'd really love to hear your stories too. No matter where you come from, feel free to share your experience in the comments. I'm Vivi. Thank you for watching. So recording this video is really not easy. I'll see you next time.